Hi, I'm Rachel Grant. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor over at Aspen Ridge. I'm at the Taylorsville office, and today we're going to talk about the interaction between the brain and our behavior. And our goal today is to kind of develop an understanding about the brain in a way that we can work with it better than sometimes we try to butt our own head against itself and push against it. So we really want to develop skills and an understanding of how those two things work together. Our other sort of goal today is to explore a lot of different types of behaviors called coping skills that we can do to better help our mental health or maintain good mental health. Basically, when we talk about coping skills in therapy, what we're talking about is actions that we can take or little activities that we can do that help our brain. So we're going to go over some of those today, and then by the end of this, we're going to talk about, how do we create a plan that works for you? Something that can be easily implemented into our everyday life, again, with that goal of bettering our mental health. So, we're going to start by talking about the brain, and specifically what makes up the brain. So we know a little bit that there's gray matter and white matter. We probably learned that in your high school biology class. And then there's also all these electrical neurons going on in your brain. And then there's chemicals that get released in our brain when we're doing different things. And we're going to focus on four main chemicals today. They're kind of our basic happy chemicals, the chemicals that our brain releases when we're doing things that make it happy. So kind of an overview of that, we've got oxytocin, serotonin, endorphin, and dopamine. And chances are you've probably heard of one or more of these, but we're just going to go a little bit more in depth and explore what is it that we can do to help our brain release these happy chemicals. So our first one is dopamine, and this is probably the one that you've most likely heard of. I work with a lot of teenagers, and teenagers kind of have this idea of, I got to get this dopamine hit. I got to do something to release a little bit of instant gratification. I need that little bit of a pick-me-up, so to speak. So what is dopamine? Dopamine is our internal reward system. It's basically our brain saying, ooh, I like that, do more of it. And it gives us a little sense of again, motivation, accomplishment. Again, our brain wants us to keep doing the things that make us happy. And it tends to be a little bit more on the short-term side. So again, kind of that instant gratification, okay, let's repeatedly do this task to make sure that we have this burst of happiness. So what are some things that we can do to get it? First and foremost, checking things off of our to-do list, our tasks. Things like making our bed in the morning. Maybe you're running around picking up kids, and you're okay, kids are checked off, got the groceries, dinner's ready, right? Check, check, check. Or maybe it's different tasks with your job that I got to get this project done by Wednesday, I got to get this email sent, and as we do that, our brain's okay, good job, you did something. Let's have a little release of a good feeling. The next thing is food. Food is actually a huge release of dopamine for us. And some recent studies suggest that we have some dopamine releases that happen in our gut as well. So, super cool. And it makes sense if we think of the science behind it, that food is one of those things that keep us alive. So our body's going to reward it for, in a sense, fueling it. We're going to have a good feeling. But that's kind of why when we're stressed, we tend to turn to our favorite snacks, or why we feel a little extra satisfied after a good meal. More recent studies have also looked at gardening as a big dopamine release, getting our hands in the earth, and there's something to gathering our food. And again, if we look at the science behind that, we see humans were hunter-gatherers for many, many years. And so our bodies kind of develop this sense of, when I gather food, I'm more likely to survive, so our brain rewards us for kind of that survival instinct And I know gardens tend to be a little bit more of a luxury than a survival thing nowadays. So even having like a little potted plant in our kitchen window, or maybe you have like a sprig of basil that you can kind of collect every once in a while. Just a little something else that kind of helps us get it. And then we have activities, entertainment, things like music, TV, movies, our phones, right? All of that can get us a little bit of dopamine. All that to say, there is some concerns that I have, especially, again, I work a lot with teenagers, and we tend to kind of hyper-focus on, we have this one thing that gets us the dopamine hit. And I mean, adults and teenagers alike, we kind of have this tendency to go for those really quick instant fixes, and a lot of times that happens to be our phone. And we do get a little hit of dopamine when we have things like scrolling or notifications on our phone. It's a sense of like, oh, what is this new thing? Or, and it's easy to turn to, but that tendency to go to it, we're missing out on all these other good things that gets us a little bit more like life satisfaction. We don't get a ton of that from our phones. So we just want to be careful that like we're not turning to that alone, that we're planning a lot of intentional places where we can get that dopamine hit from. Dopamine also can be connected to addiction. So again, with phones, or maybe we're spending too much time with junk food, right? Again, kind of where that some addictive behaviors, or even like shopping, maybe we get the dopamine hit from buying something new, which awesome, great, nothing wrong with that. But is that the only place where we're getting it from? Or is it starting to turn into something where it's a little bit too much of a habit and we need to kind of spread that out a little bit? Moving on to our next chemical is serotonin. So serotonin is a little bit more long-lasting than dopamine. It's kind of this sense of life satisfaction and contentment. It can also create like a calming feeling, which is great because we're all super stressed. Life is stressful and we need more of this. And again, just kind of an overall feeling of like well-being, a positive mood, kind of helps regulate some of those more negative feelings that we have. So where do we get it from? As the meme on the previous page kind of suggested, self-care, right? Things that we do to take care of our bodies. Our other one can be outdoors, getting outside, having sunshine. There's a recent study from the University of Utah that shows that we get a lot of dopamine just from getting away from like urban sounds and sights and getting in nature. Other studies even suggest so far as there's some neurogenesis, which just means like new neurons can form in the brain when we're out in nature. Super beneficial, super cool stuff. So good to get out there, and in Utah we're so fortunate to have so many amazing nature sites, and most of them aren't even that far away. Another one is hobbies, skills and activities that we enjoy doing, and this could be anything from like a sport, maybe you're into the arts or crafting. It can be things like coding on a computer, right? Whatever it is that you're into, it's this sense of mastering a skill and engaging in something that kind of creates meaning in our lives. And we don't even have to be that good at it to get the serotonin from it, but as long as like we have that enjoyment and we're building up our skill, our body's gonna reward us for that. Another one, and I get a lot of eye rolls with this one, but mindfulness and meditation. Probably hear it all the time. I get a lot of groans again from my teenagers. But this is actually a really important one that we find, and it, again, can really help with the stress level. So one of my favorites is called butterfly breathing, and this helps because I know a lot of people don't like just sitting with their thoughts or trying to like empty their mind. So I like ones that either have a little bit of like a YouTube video with someone guiding you doing it, and so you have a little bit of something to focus on, or butterfly breathing as well as other ones have a little bit more like body movement and a little bit more like interaction that you can do. So we're gonna try this one super fast, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our hands out in front of us like this, cross them at the thumb to make a butterfly. Butterfly's gonna come land on our chest, and we're gonna just start slowly tapping one hand at a time and take some nice big deep breaths. And what this is doing is it's giving your body a rhythm to tune into so that it slows down the breathing, it slows down the nervous system, even like our digestive tract gets back on track with this rhythm. And it allows your mind to kind of clear and just focus on the breathing and on the tapping. You're gonna find just some of that stress start to melt off. And you don't even have to do it for very long. It can be 30 seconds and you'll notice a little bit of a difference there. So give it a try. And then another place we can find serotonin again is that self-care. And I think a lot of people have started thinking of self-care as like bubble baths and facials, and certainly that's all part of it, but sometimes self-care is hygiene, right? Getting the shower in, brushing our teeth, doing things that take care of our body so that our body can then take care of us. Certain ones can be even like doing your laundry so you have something clean to wear, making sure you're taking your prescribed medication, getting enough sleep, having downtime during the day so that you're not running yourself ragged. Okay, along with serotonin, we're gonna do a little bit of a sidetrack here, but it's all related. So, we're gonna talk for just a minute about the flow state. And flow state comes with what we talked about before with serotonin of mastering a skill or engaging in hobbies. So basically, it's the state of mind that happens when we have a little bit of a challenge, but our skill is growing up with that challenge to meet it. So having a challenge and rising to meet it. Our brains love to be here. And we know that we're in this flow state when kind of the world starts to disappear around us. We're just honed in on the tasks that we're doing, and we have this kind of natural high that's going on. And you can do it, again, by any sort of task that you're doing. You can get it coding, you can do it playing video games, you can do it riding your bicycle, you can do it hiking. It can be anything that you're trying to improve on. But why is this important? When we're trying to schedule out time, which we'll talk about more later, we want to find little challenges for ourselves to help us get into this state. And certainly we're not always going to be there every time we're engaging in a hobby. Sometimes we just need a little like low level activity, give us a little boost for the day. But when we can, that challenge is really, really healthy for us. And our brains, they just love to be there. Like, it's so good for us. And again, kind of creates that sense of like life satisfaction, a little bit of happiness, a sense of like our even like self-worth kind of increases with it. So try and challenge yourself a little bit with the skill that you're building. Not so much that it's overwhelming and anxious, but just that little step up that can really help us, give us that boost. And we can see the flow state even happen thanks to technology and brain scans and stuff. So as we're understanding the brain more, we can kind of look for these things. And you can see it in these images here. This comes from a study out of Germany. And these people weren't doing anything like amazing. They were doing like multiplication tables and just like getting into the flow of math, which doesn't sound super fun, but again, a little bit of a challenge. Our brain really likes to be there. So you can kind of see it on these images, just different areas of the brain's lighting up. It's super cool. Nerdy, but very cool. Okay, going back to our different brain chemicals. Our next one is going to be endorphins. So, little mean there, very famous line from the movie Legally Blonde. If you've seen it, she talks about how exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make people happy. Happy people don't kill their husbands. So, what is really endorphins? So, we see endorphins sometimes called the painkiller. So, when endorphins go up, our body's ability to feel stress and pain go down. So, pretty important brain chemical to have, and definitely one that we can seek after. Again, kind of that increased sense of happiness and satisfaction with life, and even sometimes an increase of like feeling of self-confidence. So how do we get these? Exercise tends to be the biggest one. And it doesn't have to be like you're going to the gym for an hour and doing all this heavy lifting or cardio. It can be doing a sport that you really enjoy. It can be going for a walk around your neighborhood with your dog. It can be going for a hike or canoeing. Whatever it is that you enjoy doing, that's physical activity, chances are some endorphins are being released there. The other way is laughter. Laughter is the best medicine, right? We hear that all the time. And it's, again, endorphins go up, we're laughing, we're having a good time, our sense of pain, our sense of stress tends to decrease. So finding things that make you laugh is important. It's part of therapy. Our last brain chemical today is going to be oxytocin. So this one is also known as the cuddle hormone, and it's kind of nicknamed that because we see it at the highest rate when parents are holding and like cuddling their newborn babies. Not the only place that we can get it, but that tends to be like the highest release that we see. It's also a feeling of like connection and belonging and a satisfaction with like our social life or connectedness. And also can promote like a feeling of safety. So again, stress decreases, feeling of safety goes up with this one. So where do we get it? Social interaction, especially that face-to-face interaction. Probably can get a little bit from it over a camera or, you know, our Zoom calls and our FaceTimes with friends. But mostly we see it in that face-to-face interaction. That's just kind of how our bodies are hardwired. And that is kind of, we speculate, part of the reason why so many people were getting depressed during the COVID lockdown, right? We didn't have that interaction as much with people, and we were stuck by ourselves and isolating. And so we saw an increase of that depression. I also always tell my clients, like, it doesn't matter how introverted you are or extroverted, we all need at least a little bit of social interaction. It doesn't have to be every day, it doesn't have to be for long periods of time, but we all need it at least a little bit. We can get it through physical connection as well, right? A hug to your grandma or your best friend or your partner, right? It doesn't have to be romantic, but that physical touch is an important part of this. Again, even just like shaking hands, high-fiving, we get a little bit of a release there. Okay, so now that we understand the brain a little bit better, we want to then create a plan. How do we implement this? We really want to, again, work with your brain in the way that your brain works and not against it. So I have just a couple helpful tips here. So one, make a plan to incorporate all these different types of chemicals. Not that we have to do every single one every day, but that we want to have a good balance of each of these. And remember that we need more than just that dopamine, that instant gratification, to make an overall feeling of wellness and balance in our lives. So make a plan that includes a little bit of everything. And it can help to combine activities that are going to give you multiple of these. So, and that's going to happen a little bit automatically anyway, but we can combine oxytocin and endorphins by going for a walk with a friend in the park, or reading a book and cuddling with a pet. We can doodle while listening to music, right? Doing an outdoor hobby, chances are we're going to get the serotonin and endorphins because we tend to be a little bit more physically active outside. Another tip is to start small and build momentum up, right? So if your goal is, okay, I'm feeling like I need more endorphins in my life, I'm going to start working out. Awesome. Don't make your first goal to be at the gym 5 days a week, or don't have your first goal be to hike 5 miles every weekend, right? We need to start small, or it's really easy to start burning out quickly, and then we kind of lose that interest or that motivation to do the thing that we're trying to do. So starting small might look like, you know what, I'm going to introduce myself to one person, and that's going to be my social outlet. Or I am going to start by going to the gym once to twice a week and kind of build up from there. Also remember that we're not going to be good at a lot of things that we try for the first time. The goal is not to be good. The goal is to just enjoy it, to try something new. And in trying something new, sometimes it's good to introduce something different into your schedule, right? Maybe you already have a couple hobbies that you enjoy doing, a couple different people that you enjoy being with. Have a little bit of a stretch. Go outside, one step outside of your comfort zone, and decide what that looks like. Another thing is to do what you enjoy. If we're trying to be more active and you hate running, don't make your goal to go running. Like, again, there's not much motivation there to stick with it. So do things that you know you kind of gravitate towards. This can also be a good way to meet new people. I have a lot of people telling me, Rachel, it's so hard to make friends as an adult or in this like kind of modern weird society that we're living in. It absolutely is. But if we go after things that we enjoy, chances are we're going to meet people along the way. So if you enjoy calligraphy, take a calligraphy class, and chances are you're going to meet some people there that also enjoy what you do. Or maybe not a class, but like maybe you really enjoy basketball. Look online, try and find people who are doing pickup basketball games. Are we going to make a best friend every time? No, probably not. But we are going to have positive social interactions, and that can be just as important. Another one is to put it on the schedule. Our lives are so busy, and sometimes if we don't block out time for these things, they're just not going to happen. So make sure that it's on the calendar, cemented in, even if it's just you and your crochet hook and you're going to learn how to crochet, block that time out. Don't let other things kind of take priority over it, because this is just as important as anything else. And with that, use coping skills during breaks, right? We don't have to sit there and do these things for hours on end. Try incorporating it into the breaks that you have at work, right? Instead of scrolling YouTube shorts, maybe we go for a short walk. Or maybe we do 2 minutes of that is a breathing exercise, and then we go to YouTube shorts, right? But try to incorporate it in throughout your day instead of using it as like, okay, well, at the end of my busy day, I can do this coping skill as like a reward. Coping skills aren't a reward, they're a boost to help us maintain our wellness throughout the day. One sort of technique that I recommend using is called the 20-10 rule. So 20 minutes of productivity of whatever we feel like we need to get done, and then taking like a 10-minute break. Or, you know, if your work doesn't allow that, again, utilize the breaks that you do get and try to incorporate some of these things in. And then just to end, a couple of additional resources that I think are super helpful. One is a book called Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. Incredible book that I recommend to everyone. It explains a lot more about how the brain works, the importance of taking breaks and regulating stress, and some coping skills that really help with that. So if you want to learn more, that's a great resource to use. And then I have a couple links here, one to the University of Utah research that's being done about going outside and the benefits of that. And then one from Stanford Behavioral Health, 27 things to do instead of scrolling that can help with that dopamine boost. So if you need more ideas, that's a great one. And then of course, always working with a therapist can be super helpful as well. We don't always have to have a lot of mental struggles, or life doesn't have to be falling apart to see a therapist and to get some help incorporating some of these skills and learning just how to improve and maintain our mental health. So that is all I have for today. Thanks for joining us.